Welcome to Electrify, the video show and podcast for electricians only, with your hosts Paul Abernathy and Jay the Basement King Grunberg. Sit back and enjoy the show. What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Electrify. My name is Paul Abernathy, one of your hosts, and with me, as always, my co-host, cohort in crime, Mr. Jay, the Basement King Grunberg. Jay, welcome to the show, as always, and maybe I have the mic set right this time. We will see.
That sounds good. Hey, what's up, everybody? Hey, Carlos, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. Again, welcome. So if you're new to the stream, you've never been here before, or you've never been with us on a Thursday evening, welcome. Glad you could join us. We're streaming on multiple platforms. As always, we've become used to doing that now. So again, whether you're listening over on our Instagram, no, wait a minute. We don't do Instagram yet, do we? Oh, that's right. I don't like that little telephone platform that you've been trying to get us to go on to, but you can do it over on LinkedIn. You can do it over on Twitter and Twitch if you want to be if you're a Twitcher. Also, we're over on Facebook, and there's a bunch of different locations that you can be at. YouTube, that's right, the main one, I guess. YouTube. We've always been at YouTube, so again, and hopefully we have the audio fixed on everything now. Hopefully, so you can hear me okay, and I'm not overmodulated. So how is today's a special day in Colorado, is it not?
Yeah, so big shout out to the wife. She it's her birthday today.
Mm-hmm.
Won't tell you how old she is straight up, but I'll tell you she's the opposite of 53. So if that makes sense. So yeah, we big shout out to her, man. She works really hard. She's a stay-home mom and my receptionist / bid or estimator / payroll person. She plays so many roles in this thing, man. And so to just be able to go out today and enjoy it, we went out, took her out to Texas Roadhouse and had a good time. So
hey, that's where we go. So just the other night, we go to Texas Roadhouse. Of course, I am in Texas, of course, but we went to Texas Roadhouse, and steaks are great. Not the same as the ones I cook on my grill, but hey, they're really good. If I have to have a second best, they are the best. So it's awesome. Interesting today for me, Jay. I had actually got to tour a large PV solar farm today as a guest to come out and give some insight, talk code, and walk the facility and look at the facility. We're talking many megawatts, huge, out in rural Texas. Took us about 2 hours to get there from McKinney, but you're talking about literally just. I think it's going to be close to 5,000 acres of PV farm. It was just amazing to walk it and look at and talk to the guys and engineers and look at everything. It was nice to be invited, and I'm glad that I was able to go. But it was awesome. So it was an awesome day, and it took us a couple hours to kind of see all the little pieces that are involved in it. But I believe it's probably I think they said it was the largest PV 691 solar farm in the country right now. But it's out in the middle of somewhere in Texas, and they like it that way. They like you not knowing where it is. It's of course, if you live around there, you know where it is because it's in the middle of nowhere, and the people that live there, they're like, that's the only thing going. But it's huge.
Right.
It's huge. So they obviously it was just interesting to see it, that type of thing. So that's what I did today.
Took you 2 hours to get out there. Did obviously you went in respect for Encore, I imagine.
Yes.
So you went out there and represented Encore. Who else went with you?
Me, one of our VPs went, and I went and our marketing person went. Now, of course, we couldn't take pictures. I know that's what everybody's seeing. How about pictures? How
Right,
about
right.
pictures? But again, a lot of this stuff that they're doing is cutting edge. So again, looking at their combiner setups and then looking at their inverter setups, exterior
Hmm.
inverters, and the size of these things, and it's all kind of modular design. The way they bring in these inverters on skids and raise them up, and it was just interesting to see. But they couldn't let you take pictures because a lot of the stuff is proprietary. In other words, it's still the
It's
wild PV.
classified, bruh.
Yeah, PV industry is still in many cases in these large scales is still the wild west. I mean, they're not under any jurisdiction, even though I tried to explain AHJs and all that kind of stuff to them. But um, that is, it's they're really not under there's no restrictions for them right now in what they do, that type of thing. So it's one of those things. But yeah, Bill, when I go to look at those type of locations, I'm really not going there to learn anything. I'm bringing them code, and code's the same, rather the scale, the bonding's the same. It's just bigger, just the same thing as you would. And I think I learned one thing is that I didn't know that they had it down to a system with these large exterior inverters, and how they gang these things and the way they just put them in the field. I mean, I've been to solar farms before, but nothing like this scale.
Yeah.
It was just I don't and the neat thing about these is there's some new module designs they're utilizing, which actually is pretty neat because it uses both sides of the actual array, so that when it's turning, if there's anything that reflects off, like waters pooling or anything that reflects off the ground or anything, it
Yeah.
also gets the energy from reflection as well, not just the sun. So instead of it being one side crystals, it's picking up from both, and they constantly are tracking, and that type of thing. So, and what's
Tracking
interesting,
where they can get now that are you talking about tracking where they move in
tracking the
certain
sun.
positions that consume the most? Okay.
Yeah, staying with it as it moves, as the sun moves, and
Wow.
and uh, and I guess as the Earth rotates, not so much the sun move, but and moving around. But the interesting thing about those is that they also are so sensitive to wind. So we have a lot of wind down here, and when we get the wind rolls through Texas and those areas, I mean, these things are nothing like big sails, and we're just seeing for miles of these sails. But
Yeah.
they have a system that designs that if the wind gets to a certain level, they will forget about the efficiency of the sun. They'll go to a certain position to optimize themselves in the wind, so they don't become big sails in the wind. Um, and then of course, we get a lot of hail out here, and we can get some large hail. The question was always,
Yeah.
how are these things going to hold up to hail? But they're designed to tilt at a certain degree so that they're less impervious to hail, things like that, and whatnot. Bill asked, "Did I see any code violations?" Surprisingly or not, I did not. Their engineers are pretty sharp, and I might be teaching something for them in the future, but they were pretty sharp.
Yeah.
It's
You're
like
looking though.
they'd like, yeah, I was looking, but it's
You're
it's
looking.
like it's like they've done this before, and they have. This company builds these things all over the country. And so the guy
Yeah.
that gave us the tour today was the guy that they bought in to build this facility. And then he's getting ready to leave and go to either to a new one that's getting built in Las Vegas or in
Yep.
Virginia. So they're building two more going on. This company's doing it. And he's that guy that they send in there to get it all set up, to lay it out.
Yep.
But it's quite fascinating to see it on such a scale that it is. And I asked him, I said, do you, they actually invert it there, and they will then deliver it to the substation, which is built right there by the facility. So there's two separate substations that kick it into the grid. And so their process is they have to take it from the actual field into the inverters, from the inverters underground over to the to the substation plants that are actually constructed there by the utility on that site to interact with it in order to be able to take their power and send it. So they don't take it from DC and carry it over to they have to invert it into AC. And it's because you don't have as much losses in the AC as you do with DC, because they have to go a little bit of a distance to get to the substations, which were built for them, by the way. And that's no small task. These things were huge itself. Your own little substation. There was 2 of them there. And so that kind of gives you the idea of the scale. And then just put in your mind, it's still in building process. When it's all done, and they got some that are online. When it's all done, we're talking again 5,000 acres of just solar arrays. It's just quite.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but of course you're right. I was looking for violations, but I didn't really see. Didn't see any too bad. So
yeah, I mean that's us electricians. Wherever we go, whether it's Texas Roadhouse or out to a solar farm, it doesn't matter, man. Wherever you go, you're looking for something, right? You always see something.
So what do you say? Hey, ma'am, did you know you got a code violation up there behind the stuffed armadillo?
Right.
I'm just saying, just on the other side of that armadillo.
That piece of tubing isn't supported within 3 feet of the box. That looks like 3.5. So let's go ahead and get one there.
I got to get after I eat here, I'm going to grab the ruler and I'm going to get up here and check this.
Yep.
I just want you to know. Right. And I'm going to be calling somebody. And don't worry about being the health official. We don't need the health official in here. We're calling the inspectors in here. I'm just saying.
And if you don't want me to, just go ahead and cop this dinner for me, and we'll be okay.
That's right. That's right. Or you could just embarrass everybody by saying, that reminds me. So, did you listen? Did you do the birthday thing where they had to come over to the table and sing?
So we I made sure, because obviously Jalissa and I have been together for a while now, and so I was like, listen, babe, you want to ride the bull or do you not want to ride the bull? And she says, no, I don't want to ride the bull. I said, okay. I said, is this a no, meaning like, how women usually say no, but they mean yes? So I was like, babe, is this one of those moments where you really mean yes? I knew she didn't, but I just had to ask, right?
I had to ask anyway.
She goes, Jay, you get that dang bull over there, and you're sleeping on the couch. You know what I mean? Like that type of. So I was like, okay, I got it. So, as we're sitting down, we're ordering some drinks, and I said, don't look at her ID too close. Wink, wink. And she goes, what are you guys celebrating something? I go, yeah, it's her birthday, but please don't bring out the bull. And
y'all got the bull.
Well, it's like a little saddle. It's like a little saddle that you get on, and it kind of goes around. Yeah, it's just a little saddle. I say bull, I meant saddle, but
they do not. They just come over and play little songs.
That's what they did.
And I'm like, dude, just give me the molten chocolate cake dessert thingy. Yeah. Just cut all that and just give me the cake. Okay, I'm a diabetic and I'm waiting to go into diabetic coma. Just give it to me.
Oh heck no.
So anyway. Well, cool. It sounds like we both had good days. Hopefully everybody out there had great days and had a good day today and everything. Holidays getting ready to come up. We're in holiday. Hopefully you've done all your shopping. I don't really do that. The wife takes care of that thing. But when it comes to the family, I just throw money at them. Yeah, this is like, oh, well, I figured you'd want to get something yourself. You didn't want me to pick it, so that's my lazy way of saying I didn't want to go shopping. So here's $1,000. Go do something. But anywho, great topic tonight. Oh, also want to say, I hope everybody out there that donated got all their goodies. If you haven't got your goodies from Spinning the Wheels that we do here, please reach out to us at hosts, which are HOST or HOSTS at electricianlive.com, and let us know if you haven't, or it will be there shortly. It might be just held up in the mail, but again, thank you everybody for all of that. So again, much appreciated. And hopefully we're caught up on most all that we have everything for.
I am not caught up on mine. I still have mine I have to release, but that's okay.
You'll get to it.
I'll get them out there.
Yep. All right. So tonight's topic on Electrify is kind of one that I've talked about this for years. Everybody knows the first book that I ever wrote for an industry specific was for home inspectors. And it was for the the electrical education part of it. And I was heavily involved in InterNACHI. Have you ever heard of it? There's different multiple home inspection associations. There's ASHI, which is American, what is it? American Society of Home Inspectors. You got NACHI. It's an international, God, I don't even remember this stuff anymore. What is it? International NACHI, International Association of Certified Home Inspectors.
Okay.
Gosh, you got NAHI and National Association of Home Inspectors. I don't even know if they're still around anymore. So these are the national bodies, right?
Yep.
And so they're the national bodies. And obviously, I've been a member of NACHI International. They're the what I consider the biggest, the best. The guys that's the head of that or started that, even though he kind of sublines his role now, but he started that was Nick Gromyko, and his brother Ben Gromyko, who does the education. They do a great job for their education for home inspectors. But Nick Gromyko had always been the CEO and founder. A great guy, very flamboyant, if you will. I mean, he's kind of out there some occasions, but very much loves the industry. But it's a great marketer, and that's one thing about home inspection associations. You got to be a good marketer. So that's an association that you can join that you get a lot of education from. And I was a part of giving the education for their electrical when it came to InterNACHI, and we just call it NACHI. So I did a lot for them for years, writing the books for them or doing things for them and doing education for them and their certification program. Had videos that I did for them. And they're a great association for home inspectors, and they give a lot of education. But when it comes to home inspectors, I guess we should start with every state is different when it comes to licensing of home inspectors. So in Virginia, licensing is optional. You can be a home inspector and not have to have a license, but it is an optional type of thing. Whereas in some states like Texas, it is not optional. It is a requirement to have a license. Okay, so changes all through the country. There's different requirements here nor there. Whether or not you have to have a license or not. But the big question that comes up, and in my brother who interacts a lot with home inspectors, and I did through the years, and I've done quite a few home inspections through the years. So I have knowledge in the plumbing, mechanical, heating and cooling systems. Electrical obviously is my forte. Structural, those type of things. But it was something that was always, part of a service that we offered, right? It was, and I mainly focused on the electrical. So other home inspectors would hire me out to just do the electrical, or a company out to just do the electrical portion of something. And we do a report just for electrical because they didn't feel comfortable with electrical. To a point where that's, a plumbing leak, you can see it. HVAC, you can look at temperature differentiations on it. You can look at how things are run. You can look at things that they're supposed to look. But we're going to talk about the nuances of what a home inspector does and how that benefits or doesn't benefit an electrician or the industry or what they offer to people. But I'm just giving you some oversight before we get into a deep discussion on it. So, when it comes to a home inspector, the next question is, I guess, Jay, is how knowledgeable do they need to be in all systems? Okay. Yeah. So typically a home inspector is a generalist. They don't have to be an expert in any one area, but they have to be proficient, right? And I think the one problem that we'll go to, well, let's do this first, Jay. What has been your experience? And I'll kind of elaborate because I have a large background working with home inspectors and teaching them home inspectors and supporting the home inspection industry because I do. What has been your experience or your interaction or your involvement with home inspectors? Has it been positive, been negative? Has it been adversarial? What is your experience in Colorado? Because I know you've worked with some follow up after some home inspectors and done some reports. I mean, fixing stuff that's been on a report. What's been your experience for home inspectors?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because there's a lot of homes that get sold, right? And with every home that gets sold, you have to have a home inspection, and they try to cover everything. And usually, it's one individual here that will cover the whole house, right? Like even when
Mhm.
we had our home inspection 2 years ago, going in as buyers, we seen the inspection report, and that same individual covered everything, right? He covered the roofing, the like foundation, the plumbing, the mechanical, the electrical. He went in depth with the sewer. I guess that would be kind of more plumbing, but it was a sewer line going out to the
Sure. Sure.
to the utility, if you want to say that, or the city. So he was just they do a lot, and I want to say every inspection takes about roughly 3 to 4 hours.
That's about
Um,
right. That's about right. 3 to 4 hours, depending on the square footage of the house and the complexity of the systems that are involved in the house. I mean, there's some houses and locations that have some geothermal systems that some home inspectors might not have the expertise in a geothermal heating and cooling system. So they might have just enough, knowledge of that to be able to, and they'll take their time and make sure that they get it right. They don't want to rush it,
yeah.
and that type of thing. So, yeah, so your experience with him?
Yeah, and I think it's important too, because some of them, if they know that they're trying to do something, some certain test on it, and it's out of their league, a lot of them will third party that out. It will kind of, because they ask you what you want done. Do you want the basic? Do you want to go in depth? Like what level of an inspection do you want? And so for the reports, I usually get for the electrical, it's probably usually about 6 to 7 pages on most
Sure.
inspections, because I get calls all the time. They say, hey, I'm so and so. I just had an inspection on my house. We have aluminum wiring. We have an old FPE panel. There's some circuits, or there's some receptacles that aren't grounded. There's some
Right.
wires that aren't protected. Just the basic stuff, right? That's normally
Right.
what you see.
Sure.
And what does that say? Super stickers, $20. Thanks, Lightsy, for that, man. I'll put you down.
Yeah.
First
Thank you.
donation of the night. We really appreciate that. Let me
Thank
just
you,
put that
Chris.
down real
Much
quick.
appreciated.
So yeah, you get these inspection reports. I don't really deal with these guys too much on a personal level. I haven't really, and you and I've kind of talked about this, Paul, is that when I do go into service eventually, that's probably an area where I'm gonna hit, and I'm gonna focus on it. I'm gonna have a pamphlet or some type of cover letter that says, hey, this is who I am. This is the company that I run. This is what I got. This is what we do. Let us help you in any type
Sure.
of way, and what better way than to get into that with those guys? Because again, when you get those reports, those homeowners or the buyers or sellers, they want to know what it takes to get it done, and what it costs, right? So what better way to get in with it? But as far as the guys, I mean, they have the biggest thing for me is, even if I see something on that report that might not make sense, that may not be a code violation, that may, for example, let's say they go, oh, the AC's on a 2 pole 40, but the wire size is 12. It's undersized.
Right. So
And I
they
go to
so
the
they're not
AC, and
they're not they're not overly familiar with the fact that we're going nameplate in in our
yeah,
allowances in 440 are going to allow us to, we're familiar with this. So we know there is applications where you're going to have an overcurrent device that exceeds what would be the rating of the conductor under certain conditions, like motors and with HVAC applications. So, but they don't know that, and sometimes that gets reported, right?
and you know what? It's okay that they don't know that. The biggest thing I don't want to do is I don't want to down talk that inspector,
Mhm.
because I don't know what his life is like. He's probably gone through classes, courses. He's in his position because he put in the work to get there. I want
Mhm.
to work with him. So if it's something that I'm not too concerned about, I might pull the homeowner to the side and just say, hey, I think he may have misread this. Let's go take a look at it. I'm going to show you the safety issue that you thought was a concern that really isn't. I really don't reach out to the inspectors to tell them any different, because they probably, may not. I'm not in a position where I'm going to be able to teach them anyways. I don't have any kind of
Okay.
class that I could say, hey, come to, but
All right. Well,
I,
let's explain that a little
yeah,
bit for folks. So, there are different aspects of where you're going to have interaction with um, with a home inspector. And sometimes you're going to have two ways of looking at it. You're going to have some electricians that will read this report and they will get bent out of shape. They'll look at it and say, that's BS, that's BS, that's BS.
Yeah,
and
right
then
away.
right away. And then in some occasions you're going to have an electrical contractor that's going to look at that and say, you know what? Every time I see a home inspection report, I'm seeing dollar signs. And if I'm in business to stay in business, I'm going to either address the issues in that report one at a time, or I'm going to just fix those issues one at a time if they're fixable issues or something that needs to be fixed, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So, I look at it, so it's, and we do have some questions in the chat. I will promise you we will get to your questions and give you different positions on things. But for me, I always looked at it, I can look at it and see, well, that person wasn't right. But at the end of the day, you have to understand something when it comes to home inspectors. So this is the golden rule for most home inspections around the country. They're not code officials. They are charged with pointing out safety concerns. So, for example, if you have a countertop and it's required, and a sink countertop in a kitchen requires GFCI protection today, but it did not require it 35 years ago, 40 years ago, maybe. They might make a recommendation in their report that the code requires GFCIs there. And you look at it as an electrician and go, whoa, wait a minute. That was not required in a home that was built in 1956, right?
Right.
And to that, it might even be a 2-wire system that doesn't have, the adequate equipment ground, right? Which GFCIs will still work fine because it's looking for the imbalance. So at the end of the day, he's making, or she is making, a recommendation for safety. It comes across as being code, but they're charged with making safety recommendations. And I don't think anybody could argue that GFCIs have not established themselves as a safety-driven device. They save countless lives. Okay, and they're not perfect. They're not infallible. Okay, you can take a GFCI and you stick your, not that you would here, disclaimer. Hold on, I don't even have a disclaimer button here. You put your fingers in the hot and the neutral, and that GFCI will not trip. It will treat you just like a load. Okay, you put it in the hot and you touch another path, and then current will travel on a different path and not to the torozoid, the actual CT, the coil. Then it will activate the GFCI because of current is traveling in a return path that's not consistent with it both running through that coil. So it creates a magnetic field. They cancel each other out when both the hot and the neutral go through that coil. But if the return path on one of those is outside of the coil, then the magnetic field that's generated on that single conductor that's not canceled out by the other conductor in its position as it runs through the coil causes the device to trip. So you're giving it another path. If you're putting your fingers in each side of it or touching each side of it and you're the path, it's going to treat you like a load, and the chances are the GFCI is going to function. Not going to function. So they're not infallible. The only thing about it is people usually don't go with that concerted effort to do crap like that. It's usually you're touching something and something else or whatever like that. And so the GFCI will function as it's intended. And it's been around and it's been in function since the late 60s. So the home inspector is making a recommendation. He might say it. And I used to do a lot of consulting with home inspectors on what was on their reports, because they have to be very careful what they put on the report. Some states more than others. Some states, they want code. Others, they don't, right? So at the end of the day, they need to write it in a way that they're making a safety recommendation to add this. Now, as far as an electrician, I'm thinking, I agree. I'll put GFCIs in that. So that, that's a question that Bill had brought up earlier. He says, what are your thoughts on GFCI circuits that is compliant, but the tester doesn't trip the circuit? Well, typically what happens is that the little testers we call dummy testers, that's actually shunting it to an equipment ground. If there is no equipment ground there, then the tester's not going to work.
Not going to work, yeah.
but the test feature inside of the actual GFCI will, because it shunts current around, or shuts the path, takes the path around and outside of the coil, and that causes it to test. So the real way to test GFCIs is with the push buttons, not so much the aftermarket testers, because that's all they are, is testers. Okay. The real test is to use the functions that are on the actual GFCI. And by the way, I did a TikTok. There was a TikTok out there that's getting quite a lot of looks, where the guy making fun of the guy, he says this GFCI has a breaker in it. That's not a breaker, right? So
yeah, I've seen that one. The guy's he was in a bathroom and there's a toaster in the the shower area.
Somebody said, why didn't I comment on the toaster? I'm like, dude, you don't get but a little bit of time to do and I'm more concerned with not the levity of the toaster in the
this right here is a breaker. All you got to do is just shut it off by this button. Yeah. You know a lot of times, and for you guys out there, you know this too, is just because maybe a GFCI trips, or maybe it just doesn't function anymore, maybe it's past its 10 years or whatever the lifespan is of it. That doesn't mean that the power is shut off at that actual device. That just means that device isn't working properly. When you pull that GFCI out, most likely the line side of that GFCI is still hot. So you have to go back to the breaker box and actually shut that off. So that's a scary thing when he says this is a breaker, because when you think of breaker, you think of, okay, I hit the breaker, power is done. It's off. I can work in this area live. And for any apprentice, that's probably what's going through their mind. And that's not the case, is it?
No. So the other thing is that for years, the problem with GFCIs is under UL 943, the GFCI would fail. And so for those that didn't know, inside of a GFCI, you have a metal oxide varistor. A metal oxide varistor, if you think about that, is basically a surge arrestor that's built into it, and it's got a lifespan on it. So if you're in areas of the country with it that are high lightning strikes, high transient surges, and this is also a reason why you see that we have surge protective devices now in the 2020 code that's required on 1 and 2 family dwellings. Because what happens is you've got sensitive electronic equipment that has to function. Now, back in the day, before, and I can't remember, I think it was 2004 or whatever, prior to that, when a GFCI's MOV, metal oxide varistor, would fail, the receptacle would still fail in the working condition. In other words, it wouldn't shut down. It would just function like a regular regular receptacle, and it was very misleading because people thought that it was protected, right? But it wasn't. So that changed, and so now we have, so after, I believe it was 2004, I'm not 100%, can't remember the date, but I think it was 2004, that we had a change in UL 943 that required that it actually have a light or an indicator or shut down or whatnot like that. When it stops functioning, it just stops functioning. So we replace it. So that's kind of fixed itself with that scenario. Bill makes a good point, though. I do tell people all the time, every time I hear people talk about GFCIs, they always seem to put it in relationship to water. The fact of the matter, GFCIs are where the National Electrical Code requires you to put a GFCI. So again, 210.8A for dwellings, 210.8B for other than dwellings. And of course you have other aspects of C and D and whatnot, make references, example, up to 422.5 for certain appliances that are going to need to have GFCI protection. So it just so happens, for example, a lot of the hazards are where you would have things that coexist with water. But of course, in a garage, you don't think about the water. There's no real water there, but you typically have a concrete slab. So again, it's that touch potential that we're trying to alleviate. And again, a concrete slab on earth, all this type. So at the end of the day, GFCIs are required where GFCIs are required. It just so happens in many cases, it happens to be in proximity to water or a water source, but that's not always, right? So the rules for outside outlets to have GFCI protection that is under controversy in 2020 code and obviously might change in the 2023, that has nothing to do with water except for the fact that people say, well, it could rain outside. Okay, whatever. But the reality is GFCI is where the code calls for GFCI to be, and you follow those rules. And if there's any piece of equipment that requires GFCI protection, then you do that as well. Okay. So, and Bill, I can't make any comments on that because we haven't finished voting on the 2023 yet. In fact, I just cast my vote today. So I tend to not comment at this point in the stage on 2023 changes until it's been published as a code panel member.
We'll probably have a show on that as well, I imagine.
Yeah, we'll have a show. Yeah. We'll have a show on all the all the significant changes.
Awesome to know, because you guys will know it firsthand. So for us contractors like myself, I'll definitely be picking your brain on that, because you're going to tell me areas where I'm going to have to increase my price. Yeah. Even though I've already increased them 10 times this year. I'm just saying.
And like we say, Bill, the issue was within 6 feet of a sink. Okay, so that was a trigger in one of them. But in 210.8, it requires all countertops to have GFCI protection, and it makes no mention of the sink. Okay, so it's countertops are still going to require to be GFCI protection. It's going to be irrelevant to the kitchen sink, because the reference to sink in 210.8a is a all-encompassing issue with sinks within a proximity of a sink. Okay, so I don't think that's going to change anything in the way we do it with GFCI protection. In fact, I only see it expanding even more and trying to pick up even more areas that it may not pick up today. I don't see that any changing. I don't see AFCI expanding. I think there was a fight to get it, but I don't think it is. But I'm going to have to go back and look. Again, I've on purpose, Jay, I have stayed away from all the other code panels and looking at all the changes at this point, because I know that politics play a role here at the last minute when we vote. And I just submitted my votes today for code panel 5 and 17. So we ought to be in the next, I don't know, I think 21st or 21st of this month is the cutoff. So we should be getting the final, the second draft out after that, and then I'll start making my comments, because we can't change anything now. It is what it is. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah,
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Or when you as you had mentioned earlier about a general contractor or an electrician coming in, fixing a home inspector or doing the inspection corrections, as we call it, would just tear the home inspector apart, right? I mean, he's just doing that and kind of downplaying it or saying he doesn't have any knowledge and how he may fix everything. And then you got the second guy who I think I'm more like is like, hey, this is a money opportunity, right? Not only is it a money opportunity, but I want to make your home safer. Now, my question to you is, if you go into that home, do you just try to fix what's on that inspection and that inspection only, or do you go further and kind of do your own evaluation and more? And then with that being said, do you do an evaluation based on the 2020 code, or do you just kind of don't even mess with the code and just do what that inspector says on his list?
Well, look, and you're welcome, Bill. I don't know that I corrected you, my brother. I think we were just kind of talking about the process. So I'm excited as you are to see what comes out of this, because we put a lot of work in 2023. So let's cross our fingers and hope that the code panels and everybody got it right. And there's not a lot of mopping up we have to do at the NITMAMs, which is the final stage. It was his notice of intent to make a motion. That's the last stage in this 2023. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and see that it goes smooth. But I've already can smell a lot of NITMAMs coming in the air. I can smell them coming, especially for copper-clad aluminum and all that kind of stuff. So we got one more to go after this. So anyway, your point. So you got to remember that during a sale of a home, so what's you get a home inspection is in many cases, it's something that's wanted by the buyer at the cost of the seller. And so they're going to give you this report, and there's going to be a list of things, right? And so I'm going to do what's on that list, because at the end of the day, this is really the home inspection. See, the seller is under no obligation to fix anything. They could sell it and say, if you don't like it, okay. Yeah, Bill, don't get me started on that 10 amp thing. Boy, we got to do a whole show on copper clad aluminum. I'm just saying, I'm gonna give you all a treat. In 2022, the first quarter, I am doing a intense thing for Encore Wire, and I'm going to be calling out all of the problems that I'm aware of with copper clad aluminum. So that ought to be pretty interesting. So stay tuned for that. So for me, I know that at the end of the day, this is a negotiation piece. That's all it is. It's not required to fix anything by law. They don't have to do it. They could turn around and say, you know what? I'm not fixing anything. I'm not fixing anything on that list, you know, and then you got to determine whether or not you still want to buy the home. Mm-hmm. And if you still want to buy the home, you're going to get this stuff fixed, or you're either going to get it fixed or you're not going to get it fixed. It's a negotiation piece is what I always told people. So when an inspector writes this, he needs to write it, or she needs to write it, and write it in a way that it can be constructively used, whether or not it's part of the sale or even afterwards, somebody needs to fix it. As far as an electrician, they're thinking, I've got money coming to me one way or the other. Okay, I'm going to fix these things, and I'm not selling snake oil. If there's something in this report that I, as a electrical expert, and that you are, I got a big opinion on FPE. I don't think they're all bad. I think people are spreading way too much hype about them. But anyway, so some of them are bad, by the way. But at the end of the day, I think that you fix what's on the report, and that's what you fix. That's what's being negotiated here. That's what's been found by the home inspector. I can tell you right now, a negotiation goes really south very quickly, right? Very quickly. If I go in there and I start, the home inspector is going to do his thing, and I come in there to fix things, and I start bringing up these other things. Yeah. Trust me, the buyer only wants you to fix what's on that report. The seller.
And that's it.
That's it, right?
Yeah. And to that, you go in and you address it. So first of all, actually being in the contractor side for 7+ years now and being pretty successful in it, I've started to learn how to handle these home inspections or inspection reports, right? So I'll get a call from so-and-so, whoever with home selling homes, whatever. Hey, this is so-and-so, I have an inspection report. Can I meet you on site? And I used to meet them on site and I would spend hours going over this inspection report, trying to make notes of it, trying to create a bid for it. And doing stuff like that to only find out that they're just using my numbers so that they would take it off the top. You know what I mean? As they sell it. So the seller's going, hey, I got this inspection report, or I got a bid from Wired Up. They're $3,500. Let's just take $3,500. Let's just take $3,000 off the top, and then you guys can have it, right? And I've spent hours. Where does that money, the time that I've spent, how does that get justified? Well, it doesn't. All you're doing is giving them a bid so they can take that invoice or that proposal, not really invoice because you didn't do it, that proposal, and take it off their bid.
All they're doing is using it for a negotiation piece.
That's it. And how crappy is that when you do 10 to 20 of those a year and you spend X amount of money, and it's always usually after hours because you never got time during the stinking work day to do it.
So I'll answer that for all the electricians out there who get these requests. As an electrician, you don't go do anything. When the home inspector does what they do and they come up with a report, if they want to, again, it's almost like giving somebody, if you give free estimates or whatnot, when somebody has a report, if it's a detailed report, you gave it to me, and I would look at that report and I would see what the things on there that needs to be fixed. All right. And I would give them an estimate, always understanding this is the estimate because I'm giving you it based on this report, but I'm only going to do the things that are in this report. Okay. Now, I will let you reserve the right that if I see anything else that's a concern that didn't show up in this report, then I will give you the option to fix that. Right. But I'm here to do just what's in this report. So I'm not doing a thing as the electrical contractor yet. I'm basing an estimate off of my report, this report, which may not get you in trouble depending on how detailed the home inspector was in their report. Right. Right. Now, I also used to have them where they would say, I will answer that, Bill, in a second. I know you're waiting. You got to give me time. Got to give us time to get to these topics. But I have gone into a situation where I've said, look, if you want me to come validate these issues, then it's $150 an hour. I will come and validate these issues. You can put it on top of whatever your negotiation is. And at least I'm getting something to come look at. I'm not fixing it. I'm coming to look at it. Most of the time they go, no, just give me a price on it. And if that's what they're going to do is just put it as far as negotiation and try to get a certain price knocked off, that's up to them, right? But again, a lot of times the electrician will do it a time and material thing for something like that and say, okay, well, I'll do it. Because what happens is in negotiation, right? I get the report. The seller allows a home inspector, this home inspection to take place. So the buyer gets a home inspector, then they get this list, right? Then they end up giving it to the seller, and this is the things that you want fixed as a buyer. The seller looks at it and goes, "Oh, I ain't fixing that. I ain't fixing that. I ain't fixing that. I ain't fixing that. Oh, they need a GFCI put here. Okay, how much is that? Okay, I'll put that in there. Hey, honey, can you put that in? You don't need to hire an electrician for that. You can just put that in, right? You can just go buy a $15 GFCI, right? Okay, yeah, good. We got that one. All right, we'll take care of that one. But this is what we're not going to do. And so then what happens is the buyer will take that list and ask the electrician to give them an estimate of what it would take to fix all these things. And so you'll have to look at it. And usually, be honest with you, the majority of the things that are on the inspector report are they don't get too deep. Okay. I mean, they could get something like an improper case to neutral application where somebody put a panel in improperly. That becomes a bigger deal because now you got to change it over to 4-conductor or whatnot, or separate your grounds and neutrals, because that always was required in a building, not to a detached structure, but in a building it was required prior to 84. So there's different things you might run into. That might be some things that you can look at and go, well, that's going to take nothing, right? Okay. Yeah. So boom, that type of thing. But it is very much a negotiation. And then a lot of times the seller will just look at it, and they might also get an estimate from an electrical contractor, right? Yeah. Or they might look at it and simply just say, you know what, we'll give you $5,000 off, and that's what we'll give you off the price. Right. And then at that point, it's the buyer's responsibility that once this goes through, and if they take that, they use that as part of the price for fix all the items. So it's very beneficial also for the electrical contractor to know what that allowable balance is. Okay. It's $5,000 they gave towards it. I tell the contractor, don't be afraid to ask. And the reason they say, well, why do you want to know? I'm like, well, because some of this stuff could get very detailed. I want to make sure that I'm not going to overcharge you the allowance that you've been given based on y'all's whatever. And by the way, if I see other issues in there while I'm in here, I'll make you aware of them. So I'll target what's on this list for you. But if I see other issues, I'll let you decide whether or not you want to do that. Or maybe even some of these issues aren't a big issue, and I can fix it just like that, right? Maybe the inspector said, oh, in the panel. Why am I saying that lately like that? Why on my videos I keep saying panel? I don't get it. What if they have grounded conductors sharing a terminal lug, which isn't allowed in the National Electrical Code for the grounded conductor? It could be for the equipment grounds based on the legend, but not for the grounded. Okay, so you've got 10 of those in there, and they show up in a report here. Okay, double lugging is what they'll call it. Double lugging of the grounded conductor. Okay, well, that doesn't take me hardly any time to fix. Yeah, right. That's a quick boom, boom. Yep. So I take, moving around, provided I got enough lugs to be able to do it and all that. And usually you should have an adequate amount of lugs with circuits, so it should become adequate. So that's a quicker fix, right? Yeah. And then maybe on the next one on your list, it might say, oh, we've got a 20 amp breaker that's double lugged. Okay. Well, that could be a quick fix. Maybe they didn't have enough space in there. You look at it, you clamp an amp probe on it, you see what the load's pulling. You might say, well, I just take those 2 conductors off of it. I'll splice them together and make one conductor go over to it. It's no different than double lugging. again, you're still limited by the load of what's on that circuit. It's still only a 20 amp circuit. So, maybe that's what I do. Maybe that panel will allow tandem breakers. You got to look at the legend. Maybe I add a tandem breaker in there. You could come up with solutions, each one of these things, right? So they've got, maybe the breaker, they don't know this. Maybe this is maybe this is a Cutler Hammer CH brand with the V slot. They allow for 2 conductors, and maybe the inspector just wrote it down. Or maybe it's a saddleback breaker that can take 2, and they just didn't know. So, I got to look at it, and the inspector just might not know, right? So that's that type of thing.
I think that's okay for them not to know. I think it's when the contractor goes in again and just kind of beats them down and says, okay, well, this isn't, and doesn't really focus on what's there. Because like you said, the seller and the buyer, they're just focused on that inspection report. For example, we had, actually, before I get going, just so you guys know, this is the 3rd week of December. For my giveaway here, the Basement King in the lovely state of Colorado. For anybody that donates $5 or more tonight, and Lightsy's the only one that's done it so far, I'm throwing in a 3M hat, kind of the camouflage type hat. It's not a snapback. It's one of the ones that, the Velcro style one that you can adjust like here. Pretty nice one. I got it from the supply house. Haven't really worn it. Maybe I threw it on once, but I got a pair of large Milwaukee cut resistant gloves. These are pretty nice here themselves. And then I'm kind of mixing it up too with a reversible micro USB, the DeWalt one that was given to me from my buddy down the road. He's a DeWalt rep. So I've got 3 of these guys. They're all going into one. So anybody who donates 5 or more will be on that list. We'll obviously hit the spinning wheel, and then we'll go into the other round. So anywho, back to what I was saying is I had an inspection report here at my house before I went and bought it, and one of the main things was the inspector said, okay, the service, you have this big AC, you have a range, you have this washer, dryer, all these pieces of equipment in your house, and you have 125 amp service. He goes, the service
so you got all the ones where they said the service wasn't adequate.
Yeah, the service just wasn't adequate, and
Yet it was running everything.
It was running everything. It was a brand new AC, so it was a very large AC, and that's where it kind of got the inspector, right? He said, hey, this is a very large AC. And actually, the AC wasn't hooked up properly. That was another thing. So the guy who was the seller, he was also the general contractor when they remodeled this, right? He bought the house. He was a real estate agent, which they do this all the time. They're fix and flippers, and they sell the house. So he went back, and instead of getting a price from an electrician, he just went ahead and said, okay, down on this list, he had maybe 10 items. He goes, I'll fix this. I won't fix that. I won't fix that. I'll fix that. I won't fix that. I'll fix that. I'll fix that. I'll fix that. Right?
It's all a negotiation. Yeah.
It's all in a kind of like what you said. It's all in a negotiation. Well, then he went back and they put up the panel. I mean, he got rid of the stuff that were big home run hitters. Because again, he had his handyman come in.
Sure.
My disconnect my shutoff disconnect is way above 6'7". I mean, it's probably like 8 feet. I'm not joking.
Wow.
But it was never inspected, right? What's up,
Right.
Will? So it was never inspected. So again, these are some of the stuff that the homeowners themselves or the general contractors, they kind of play these games too, where it's like, okay, the home inspector comes in, he does an inspection on it. He doesn't come back and verify that work is done.
No, he's done.
He just does an inspection and he's gone.
Once he or she gives their report, they're done. Now, they do have some liability here because if there's certain obvious things, there's this malfeasance, misfeasance, non-feasance, there's these feasuses that if he's obviously missed something, right?
There goes Aaron. Big
There's
bro.
Aaron. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you again, Aaron. And
Thank you.
The if you look on the screen on the right, you'll see the current totals right now for Aaron is donated. That is the super chat. That's a super chat alone, not the overall totals. So it's much higher than that. So I do appreciate.
Try to keep up
Aaron.
with him. I dare you.
No doubt.
That guy, he has that motto: if he ain't first, he's last, and he don't want to be last. So
that's right.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No. So yeah. So at the end of the day, they And I'm not sure, I can't remember where that got me off my train of thought. I don't know where exactly I was on it. But at the end of the day, you only fix what's in that list, and that's it. Now, question was
no,
brought
the
up.
inspector, he just leaves though. That's what we were
Oh,
talking
he's
about. He
done.
just does his report and he's
Done.
done. He never comes back.
No,
Unlike on
no.
commercial, they'll give you a 30-day, or 10-day like little time to fix that issue. Especially if it's a safety concern in the commercial world. Residential, they just walk away. Here's your report. Give me my money. He's out.
Oh, that's another thing. I'm glad Bill reminded me. I think we have to spin the wheel for Seth tonight from last time. I think he was. I was trying to remember because I couldn't go back because the thing crashed.
Oh, was he one? Okay.
Is that one at the end of the episode before last that made a donation? We got to make sure.
I think he's getting married too, or something like that. So congrats to Seth out there. Yeah, I think so.
All right. So another question that Bill brought up about something is a service change required per code for FPE, and the answer to that is absolutely not. All right. It was compliant at the time it was installed. There was a situation where there was a class action suit in New Jersey. It was not nationwide. And it was basically around their misleading UL. Now, ultimately, at the end of the day, the UL's fact-finding committee found that the devices would probably trip. And I hate the word probably in anything, but they probably would function, although they did mislead. Okay. But there is no requirement, Bill. Tell you what, I got $1,000 for you if you can prove to me that the code requires you to change an FPE.
This is the probably hat right here. When you're saying probably, you don't know if you want this or if you're not wearing this. Is it gonna be a turd or is it not gonna be a turd? Listen, man, FPEs don't have an expiration date on them. You don't know what's gonna happen with that panel. It's been working for a long time, and they have replacement breakers for those that are brand new. Yeah, so and you can even probably go in and get Eaton guts if you wanted to and replace them as well. So
here's how you address FPE, right? If it looks clean, everything looks clean. One of the recommendations that I used to tell home inspectors is because they have a concern over FPE. Yeah, it is, and it's a concern. Again, I think home inspectors, blow that more out of proportion because I have had interaction with the FPE products. This stab lock was the only one by FPE that caused a stink. It is still produced in Canada. It's still now owned. Schneider Electric owns FPE's design for stab lock. It's still produced. Okay. The problem with them was the misleading aspect of it that was given to UL for the trip curves for the FPE breakers. So here's what I tell people, okay? If you have a concern with the breakers and you have an FPE, one of the recommendations is to look at it and determine the cost value. If it's an older style FPE, where it is, there's 20 breakers or less, then you probably have to, if you're working with your customer, it's not so, the stab lock is not so much the bigger issue of the problem, right? So what the problem is the misleading aspect of it that UL did. In their study, if you go look it up on the Consumer Product Safety Commission, okay, this Consumer Product Safety Commission came out and it was really inconclusive, right? So at the end of the day, here's what I recommend. You have two choices monetarily. One, you can go in and say, Mr. Homeowner, here's what I can do. If there's a concern about these devices, because they'll probably Google it and find it and whatever, is you can get replacements. Now, they're expensive, but you can get replacements for those breakers. You put the replacements in there, those breakers will be UL listed, and they'll be fine, and they'll work in that panel. Again, trust me, the manufacturer still makes a stab lock design.
Yes, they do.
It's in Canada. Google it. So at the end of the day, all right, what you do is do that and replace all the breakers. Yep. That's one option. Now, if it's 20 or less, and even at the cost of the breakers, it's probably going to come out less than doing a whole panel change, maybe, when it comes to the labor. Not product, because you can get breakers for $6 a piece for the single poles, or $7 a piece, or $8. So cost-wise, it might come out for material, it would be less. But if you factor in labor, it's so much easier for me to pull out those breakers, put new breakers in there that will work fine in there, terminate it, and I'm only charging them for the cost of the material in the short amount of time that I put it in. Whereas if I have to do a service change, I have to pull it all down, pull it out, put it up, that's going to take. I have to coordinate with the power company. I have to do all this stuff.
Yes.
And at the end of the day,
Yep.
if it's 20 circuit breakers or less, inspection. If it's 20 circuit breakers or less, they probably monetarily will come out fine. And there's nothing to say that those breakers, the new ones that are put in it, won't be fine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying, and I think,
and you might only need 2 or 3 2-pole breakers in that panel. So let's look at that rationale. If you do 2 or 3 2-pole breakers at $100 each, okay, so you have $300 in your breakers, right? Mm-hmm. And then you might have the other ones in, let's talk you in Colorado. Let's talk you, because you do service change, Jay. So let's look at it. Not what you split with your guys. I mean, let's look at full price you charge. If I come in and I put 3 of them at $100 a piece, and then I've got the other ones that conceivably say about $50 a piece for a single pole breaker, and I've got, so let's do the math. So I've got 20. Remember, I said 20 is about the baseline. So I've got 20 space. You're going to take the 2 poles out of it. So it's 20. So we have 3 of them, 2, 4, 6. So it's 20 minus 6. So I've got 14 additional single poles. So I have 300. And then I take 50 times 14. Okay. And that's 700. So I got 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's $1,000. And then I probably got, for you, how long, Jay, would it take your guys to swap out 20 breakers? Really? To re-terminate, pull 20, what? An hour and a half?
Yeah, probably,
hour?
Yeah, I was gonna say 2 hours. 2
hours. Okay, what
max.
do you charge an hour?
Say anywhere between 65, 85 an hour.
All right, so let's say 85. You're gonna be balling them today. So we do 85 times 2 is 170 plus 1,000. So right at $1,200. The cabinet looks, if the cabinet looks good, the bus still looks good, no signs of discoloration, arcing, whatever like that. And I've seen my share of FPEs that look like you could eat off of them after 45, 50 years. They still look fine. Remember, it's just termination, it's just contact points. And you're going to put new breakers on them that are gapped right. So at the end of the day, you got $1,200 into it. What is your cost to replace a panel? And let's say that was 150 amp FPE, and now you're going to put 150 amp. You're probably going to, because it's more expensive to probably get a 150 than a 200. What is your cost? Your latest cost for a service change, Jay? What is your last service change cost? The all kit and caboodle, everything said and done.
3,500.
3,500. Okay, so I'm 50%. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I wouldn't buy FPEs because I only buy new stuff. So I'm not a believer in reusing breakers. I'm not believing if you take something out of a panel that you can reuse those breakers again. I'm against that. I believe you should use new material. If I'm going to charge you, if I'm going to charge you for an install and I'm going to charge you money, I'm using new stuff. That's only, to me, that's an ethics thing.
We have a guy here. His name's Mr. Breaker, and that's what he does. Is he resells those used breakers. You know, he puts his little tag on them and marks them up about 3,000%.
Yeah,
that's guy, man. I'd never go to him again. Mr. Breaker, you're a ripoff. Just want you to know that. Anybody out there in Colorado, don't deal with that guy, man. He's a joke, man. He'll get you. And I'm sorry to say that, but you know, I told you about that time where I went down and tried to get some.
It's a theory, Bill. Theory.
You know, I tried to get some bypass 200 amp lever bypass meters, because there's a time where we just couldn't get them here in Colorado. And from the normal supply house, you get them for about $250, maybe $300, maybe at the max $300, brand new. This guy down at Mr. Breaker, man, he sold some used one. He was trying to sell me used ones with 3 knockouts minimum, no top plate on it that would come with the original, holes punched out, already used, $600. I said, get out of here, man. I said, he goes, you can't find them anywhere.
See, supply and demand, so that means you can gouge somebody for it. I thought we had laws against that.
And that's the thing, right? Like you literally, you can do that. And I get it. I get that that's how he operates now. I know where his heart is. And for me, I'm all right. I don't
want to work with that person.
I don't want to work with that person. I don't want to support him. I don't want to deal with him. I'll go somewhere else and I'll take my business somewhere else. But back to what you were saying.
So my point is, you have given options. That's just one option. And we're going to go to a third option. Okay. And I'm going to let you talk about the third option, because I've talked to you and I used to work with Eaton a lot. And there's a third option. But that second option is you can either pull the breakers out, put them in, $1,300. It's half the price. I think you're pretty affordable now, so that's half the price, right? Okay. Now, that's one option. Second option is just to replace it, right? Right?
Yeah.
And then what's the third option, Jay?
Is to find a manufacturer who has an updated replacement bus bar for that actual panel, the guts. Yeah. So you could go into like an FPE panel, and I think it was Eaton. You and I were talking about Eaton makes a replacement guts for it because again, so where I'm at, and this would come in handy because where I'm at, people are afraid of FPEs. I could go in and say, hey, I got these new breakers. They're perfectly fine. I can take the old ones out and put them in, and they're going to question it, right? Because that inspector before me has probably already told them, listen, this is a terrible panel. You don't want this in your home. If you want to resell your home and get the maximum value, you want a different brand name on this. You know, this is the heart of your house. You want to replace it with the established company who's going to do the right thing. A Siemens, a Square D, a Eaton, and these inspectors. Some of them have done electrical, some haven't. But when they see FPE, they just lose it, and that's okay.
Zinsco, FPE, Zinsco. You know, the only problem with Zinscos that people get crazy about is that they don't realize that the breakers did fine. It was the fact that there was a period when the bus itself was aluminum and it would pit. And the pitting that caused by that bus is where you get gaps and arcs at the contact points, and that would create a heat spot, and that's where it would break down. The breakers would trip. And it was actually a pretty ingenious design, slip over design, and they were very colorful, but it was the bus. But guess what? You're a contractor, Jake. You can actually buy copper replacement buses to put in the Zinscos to make it safe. Just because we don't like something doesn't mean that there's not an alternative, but you're talking about the guts. So I haven't priced the guts, and it's been a long time, but Eaton you give them the dimensions of that cabinet, pretty simple, and you can get the guts, and the guts will go right in there, and then you can use Eaton breakers on it because they're designed for that panel board, because the cabinet is just the cabinet. So basically you're using a cabinet as the metal cabinet. It was designed for these panel boards to go in there, and then you can use their breakers on it, and then they'll give you the new cover. You give the dimensions, it's a new cover with the new hold slots and everything, right? It might be cost effective.
Yeah, and I mean, just depending on who you go to, I've never done this option before. I've heard about it, and the only reason why I haven't done it is because I don't know the time that it would take to get that back. And usually when I'm doing panel changes, it's really quick. They want it fast, you know. Now I could see this in other areas that I'll talk about on another show.
This is good for multifamily complexes where you're already planning this out, and you know that there's a lot of remote distribution panels out in the apartments, and they might be an older FPE.
They're all inside. You know, and you don't want to mess with the drywall. You don't want to tear it up. Maybe they're doing remodels, whatever. Yeah, this would be actually, this is a great example of that. And then that's what I was going to get into. Seth says 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah. And that's if you're lucky, right, Seth? And so, I mean, if you're doing a panel change out for a customer who needs to sell their home in a month or 3 weeks or next week, and they want that work done before they sell it, unfortunately, I don't have time to do that. You're not going to get fast shipping on that. You know, I'm just going to swap it out with an Eaton or whatever I can get in stock. And the reason why I got so mad on my last comment is because us as the electrical contractors, all these price gouging in material and everything like that, all it is doing is taking us and putting us under. Because not only are you guys charging us more for wire, for devices, for boxes. No, not you. And if you're part of this, it is what it is.
I don't want no wire comments now.
At a high level for all this stuff that we're doing, and we're still putting you know, we still got kids to feed and bills to pay. And then I go to a guy and I try to get a bypass lever that's banged up to all could be, and I gotta jack up my price another $300 to my customer, and I'm giving them a used product. No, that's crap, man. And you're gonna put your name behind that and that guy, Mr. Breaker? No, I'm not okay with that, man.
Mr. Breaker,
that's crap to me.
Mr. Breaker, the Basement King is calling you out.
Hey, I'm calling you out, bud. You've And I brought this guy breakers before, like I thought, and he goes, no, man. I said, listen, man, I'll buy all 3 of them. How about $575 just to see? I wasn't gonna buy them; they're trash. No, can't do it, bro. I'm sticking to my price. I know what these are for. You know, it was like that TikTok I seen the other day. My buddy, he goes, hey man, he has this roll of 12-2 wire. He goes, hey guys, I got a full roll of 12-2 NMB. and I'm looking to exchange it for a F-150. Don't lowball me either. I know what I got here.
It's
And that's
like,
so true, right?
it's the new electrician's crack, man. Just non-metallic sheath cable. Yeah, I need it. In fact, the importers from China are flooding to get imports in here. Now they're still UL listed. Well, they're NRTL listed, and they choose UL, but they're definitely trying to saturate the market with that. But again.
And I get that Mr. Breaker has to eat, Seth, and I know he's here too. Hey, this is my personal opinion. I've dealt with the guy. I've put money in his pockets again. But when you turn around and you tell me that after what I've done for you and stuff, and there's no meeting ground, I don't like that, man. So.
Wasn't he trying to sell you ones though that had missing knockouts? So they were obviously, the cabinet had knockouts already still out of it.
There's 3 knockouts punched in it, one on the side, one on the back, and one on maybe off to the top, like a 1 inch, and then the top, what do they call that? The weather closed part of it that you could put a 2-inch hub on. Yeah, the
hub hole.
Hub that comes with it, that was gone. And I'm like, okay, are you going to give me KO seals? Because now I'm buying this at $600. I got to find a 2-inch KO seal, weatherproof on both sides. I got to find a 1-inch up top. That's another $100, $150. Now I got to find the seal, the hub on top. That's, where the heck am I going to find one of those? I got to buy another panel or another meter just to find it. Again, it was crap, man. It's crap. I know he's got to eat. I don't downplay him. I'm talking crap about him, but I don't mind other people going to him. He has to make a living, but I'll just never go there again, man.
Calm down. Breathe.
I ain't no breathing, man.
Breathe. It's like my exam prep last night. Just breathe.
I told you twice. To hit record, didn't I? I texted you. I said, Paul, I'm not going to be there, buddy.
What are you talking about, Jay? Jay, what are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Tell him what happened. Tell him what happened last night.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, come on.
I don't know what you're talking about, dude. Yes, Jay reminded me in my old age or memory loss. He reminded me, because he couldn't be there, reminded me to record the session. And he reminded me twice, right? And I still forgot to hit record. Good news was I was streaming it, and so I decided to leave that stream up there. So if you want to go back and watch last night's exam prep that we did, go ahead and watch it. But at least I did have that backup. But yeah, I did forget to hit the record multiple times. Let me get back, Jay, because reel us back here because we're going all over. But home inspectors, first of all, summary. I think home inspectors bring a great value to the industry.
Yep,
they're needed. I think that the electricians should embrace it and just, give your opinion to the customer, whether or not the home inspector is right or wrong. Be able to back it up, because ultimately they're going to say, well, my home inspector is certified. Well, I said, well, I'm a licensed electrician, so I'm giving you my opinion on it. If you're, and so you give it, and if they ultimately want you to fix it, fix it. However your flavor is in fixing something, whether it's replacing the breakers, replacing a panel, whether you're doing any guts inside of it, just be transparent with it and give them the options that they have. Give them all the options. Let them make the decision. That's a beautiful thing. You make the decision. I'm willing to do it. I'm gonna give you 3 decisions. You make the decision. And I'll rank them if you want.
I'm giving you one. I'm just going to replace it.
He's just going to replace it. There you go. For me, it depended on the number of breakers in there. Yeah. And the condition of the panel and what I could get things at. So that's kind of that scenario. I think that you got to remember that home inspectors for the electrical side are not experts in anything, right? They are generalists. But their job is to look for safety concerns and report safety concerns. Now, when they start getting into code and quoting code, depending on where you're at in the country, that can be a problem because of some things. Now, I will talk one thing about ethics. When a home inspector, hold on for a second. When a home inspector comes in and they offer to fix something that they inspect, run. Home inspectors cannot fix things that they point out in a report. That is unethical. Okay. So it's kind of like them creating they'll say, and it happens, right? Because I hear people say, well, this is this, but I can fix these for you. Absolutely not. A home inspector should not attempt to fix anything, and one that has high morals and ethics will not do that. Secondly, everybody should, one, check that the home inspector is licensed if the state requires licensing, right? And two, always make sure that they carry insurance, and a good home inspector will also carry EO insurance, okay? Errors and omissions insurance, because whatever they put in their report, if they miss something and it causes a problem and it was obvious that they should have seen it because it's trained to them as part of their standards of practice for whatever association they may be with, that can come out in a court case. And I've been involved in those. So they have to know their stuff, and that's why they go get trained for it. So always, if somebody's looking to hire a home inspector, make sure they've had the training, make sure they have some type of certification. Don't be afraid to ask for it. It's the same thing I tell you to people who hire an electrician. I don't know why homeowners and people like that don't ask the electricians up front to show me your license and show me that you have insurance. And I think it's because they're afraid they're going to offend them. You never would offend me. If you wanted to see my license, I'll show you my license.
Yeah, I'll proudly show you mine.
You know, if you want to see my license, that's going to make you feel more comfortable. Plus, it weeds out all those people that are just working out the back of their truck that don't have a license, that are cutting my profits or cutting my work out. Glad I don't have to deal with that no more. But that's, you know, that's what you're looking for. And when you get the report as an electrical contractor, think of this as a money-making opportunity.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to help someone out and make money, make safety. Again, you might even become friends with that home inspector. You could reach out to him like you and I've talked about before and say, hey, I know you're not probably fixing these corrections, but do you have a local electrician that you can recommend? You know,
that's another good thing.
Recommended list.
That's another good tip, Jay, is I always reached out to my home inspectors, and I was able to be the person, if I wasn't doing the inspection and somebody else was doing it, if they needed the electrical done, they would say, hey, I recommend this guy. The same as if I was doing something and I would be like, well, I'm going to recommend this home inspector or this type of thing. Form a relationship with your home inspectors. You know what I'm saying? Because they can bring you tons of business. And the other thing, real estate agents, don't be afraid to reach out to real estate agents. Pick your area, pick your top 5, 10 real estate agents in your area, send them a nice letter with your business card. Because again, when the home inspection gives a report, the first thing that they're going to do, because they're trying to make their commission, right? They're trying to make their money, and they're trying to make their 6%, or if they're a share broker, the 3.5% or whatever. They're looking at it. They want to get these things done too. So they will even make recommendations and say, hey, wired up electrical design, we'll get them to we'll fix these things right here, this electrical work, this type of thing.
Colorado's top electrical, residential electricians, and the basement king himself, doing over 200 plus basements a year. Give them a call, 303-579-5691. They won't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Wrong one. I'm sorry, Joe.
So, Joseph, thanks for chiming in from New Jersey, man. Appreciate it. Someone was selling 4.0 boxes at $8 a piece. Yeah, man, I couldn't get 4.0 boxes from any of the supply houses yesterday. I went to 3 supply houses, and I was cutting it close because all of them closed at 5, and I got to my very last one, CED. I went to 3 supply houses to get rough material for 2 jobs. 2 jobs. I had to go to 3, and I still had to go to Home Depot after that. And guess what? I got a contractor case of those 4.0 nail-ons. I just threw them in my warehouse, my garage. So that is my warehouse. Back to what?
Let's go.
What
ready? What are we going here? So so Seth says home inspectors miss a lot of things most of the time. You know, again, we have to remember what they're there for. Now, the other thing is many people will say that they shouldn't go into panels. I disagree. I believe if they're properly trained and they use a non-contactive device like a pointer, they can go in and they can look. and they can see that everything's terminated, that the sizes are right on the breakers, and they'll look and that. Some people disagree and say they shouldn't go in the panel. I think if they're properly trained, and of course that's a big if they're properly trained and they're licensed as a home inspector, then I'm going to give them the ability to say that, look, they can go looking into this panel and remove the cover. No different than a homeowner could do that because they own the thing. I'd rather have a set of eyes in there. So if you think about it, for me as an electrician, they're another set of eyes that can get in there and look at it, because chances are I'm not going to get a chance to look at it as the electrician. Home inspectors get to look at a house every time generally it's sold. So they get to look at these things, right? Okay. So, yeah, Bill, a lot of these you bring up, like 70E, is not going to be something that the residential is going to be focused on. So, I don't think that any of them have a copy of 70E. I don't think they're worried about violation. And who's going to enforce 70E? My local jurisdiction doesn't enforce 70E. The AHJs here don't enforce 70E. And OSHA's not going to come and get involved because it's a single family dwelling, individual contractor doing work. They're not going to get involved. So it's kind of hard to push 70E on anything. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, and again, if it's a home inspector, they're not governed by any 70E. There's nobody monitoring them for 70E. So they get trained.
I think the home inspector has a general list of what they're going to go in and check, right? Wouldn't you agree with that? They have a general 20-step process that they go every time. Again, like we talked about, GFCIs within 6 foot of a sink is a big thing. Maybe the outside GFCIs, maybe expose cables, like any kind of maybe tubing or conduit or flexible, anything that's bent or broken, or they're looking for that type of stuff. You know what I mean?
So let me address some of these issues, because I get it all the time. And some people don't know that I did a lot of training for home inspectors. I don't want them operating breakers. I don't want the home inspector. If I'm teaching a home inspector, I don't want him touching the main. All I need is for him to take a house that was built in the 70s or whatever and throw the main, and all of a sudden it doesn't come back on.
Doesn't come back on. Yep. Okay. I'm with you on that.
I'm not doing that. That's not their job to exercise anything. I just would counsel them against that. They're to observe visually what they see. So if they miss something, it's because, like AFCIs. AFCIs, hey, that's even tough for people that understand AFCIs. So in 1999, when they came around and they started out and they only applied to bedrooms and they were only in the receptacles, then it expanded to other devices, then it expanded outside of the bedroom. Then we went from what's called branch and feeder AFCIs to combination AFCIs to, they don't necessarily know the parallel and series are, and I wouldn't expect them to. They're just the home inspector. Now, what they can do, and in many states, they can't call out the fact that the code required something like that. So, but what they should be doing is home inspectors should be taught that if they're going to go into a panel, they need to have gloves on. They need to have eye protective wear on it. They need to know they don't stick conductive material in a panel. And the good news is, one of the good things is if they get in a good association like NACHI, the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors, and it's www.nachi.org, I believe. They have an extensive program, and you know what? The education they give is far more than the cost of it. I'm going to tell you right now, it's like $400 a year annually, but there are literally thousands of hours of videos and training, top-notch things on every system in the building, not just electrical, every system, for your money, and the insurance that they provide at a discounted rate, the E&O insurance, and they buy it in bulk. And there's so many benefits that joining an association has, and I'm not here to stump for the association. I'm just saying there's so many benefits that come from it that you can get it. So they get so many benefits out of it that what happens at the end of the day, it ends up being a wash in cost. But they have a process on how to inspect a panel, right? How to do it, how to take the cover off and all this kind of stuff. And even some of their SOPs don't even require it. That would be something that you would do as part of your practice. If you have a home inspector, but you have a background in electrical, but you're just like me, when I was doing some home inspections for our company, I have a background in electrical. To tell me I can't take that panel off, to be blunt, you go to hell. I'm taking that panel cover off, but I have expertise in that. So you're right.
Yeah.
Some of the home inspectors do not. So you have to know your limitation, right? Hopefully they know their limitation, but there is some good training out there that they can get on that. But really, I'm looking for visual. So yeah, they do miss things all the time, and we catch it as inspectors. So y'all are absolutely, Seth, Bill, y'all are absolutely right. They do miss things, but at the scope of the day, they're only looking for the key safety concerns, not for code issues. They should be looking for what is involved with safety. So yeah, they're going to recommend AFCIs in certain areas that might not have been required by the code prior to 1999. They're going to make recommendations for GFCIs where there was no requirement for GFCI, but it's just the bathrooms. Okay, they probably didn't have. All right, and you need GFCI. That's and you'll have people that'll go, well, that wasn't code then. You don't have to. They're just trying to be safety driven and that type of thing. So that's where they should focus. But some states are different. Some states want them to be a little more codesy than others, that type of thing. There's different associations out there. Again, I'm a fan of InterNACHI. So, but there's ASHI or ASHRAE. No, like it's ASHRAE. That's an engineering standard. So there's many options out there. But I mean, everybody's got to know their limitation and that type of thing, but they're looking for all those things. But you got to remember, they're looking at a house. They're looking at much more than just the electrical. So I wouldn't expect them to be an expert on electrical. That's why if I come and fix what they put in a report, or I say that, no, you don't need to fix that. Usually they're minor. And if there is a big thing and the home inspector catches it, that's great. But if I go in there to fix what's on that list and I see something they missed that's significant, that is on me. You were asking earlier, that is on me to let them know. I said, no, there's an issue. It wasn't on the report. If you want me to fix it, I'll fix it. In some states, if you notice it, you have to fix it or make a notice to it and let them know. Otherwise, you walk away and somebody gets hurt, you're liable. That type of thing. So every state is different. Let's go to the turd.
Let's go to the turd, baby.
All right. So as you're a home inspector and you walk into this basement, turn around, walk out. Okay. Because, I mean, there's a lot going on in here. Okay. From working clearance issues, probably height issues, to obviously non-supported, non-metallic sheath cable. Gosh, to God knows what's in that panel. And if you see the level of this, if you see this level in your basement or anything, if you see this level of crap, then you can only imagine what else is, in there. Okay. Yeah,
I don't know, man. I put my TikTok handle on there. I'm trying to beat Paul on followers. He's way beyond me. But if you guys haven't seen it, man, check out my thing, turd or not.
Don't be trying to promote your TikTok on here.
Hey man, we made a bet and I'm trying the first to 1,000 and he's at like 700 plus and I'm at like a measly 280 or something. So I need all the help I can get, bro.
This is such a new platform. I'm at 787, bro.
Oh, okay,
hey, y'all,
there we go.
Y'all help me get to 1,000 before Jay.
Don't promote your stuff on here. Come on.
It's Master the NEC on TikTok. All right. So,
man.
So anyway, there's so much going on, and Bill makes a good point. So some lugs are allowed for double tapping. Neutrals on neutral bus are not one slot. Okay, one terminal, one conductor, a grounded conductor per slot. But equipment grounds are allowed as long as they're the same size. So you got you could put 214s or 212s, that type of thing. The legend will tell you. But again, we do see other issues where people do double lug or double tap a receptacle, and it's usually can be an easy fix. But again, that's some of the stuff that's low hanging fruit for the home inspector. That's for sure. They'll see those type of things hopefully. Here the goal is that they hopefully they catch the big things, but sometimes they'll miss improper case to neutrals because they don't understand 250-24A5, the connections downstream, and they might miss that. I mean, good inspectors who've been through good training, ones that have gotten if they ever got my book, they would not miss that issue. Now it's on the 7th edition of that, or 8th edition, and I don't write for that anymore. So I'm After the first edition, I'm no longer the author of anything beyond that. So again, don't blame me. But yeah, I mean, you hopefully they're going to catch the majority of the things now. And they're really, again, on their report, they're really going for safety, right? Okay. Yeah. So Seth says knob and tube. You know, and the other thing about that is usually the ones that I see catch the knob and tube because it ends up, they can see it at the panel, they can see it and they know it. So that's where they see it. Because remember, most of the time they're checking a random sampling of switches and receptacles. They don't pull things out. Okay. They don't pull receptacles out. They put the tester in there to see if they're reverse polarity or not. And some of them are a little more fancy. Like I used to have the Shure testers, which could find bootlegs and it would measure impedances and it would be able to use that for voltage drop. But again, it's not a code requirement. And all that kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, just go with the report as the electrician and fix the things that they have on their report and that type of thing.
Yeah.
Right, I know Bill and Seth are playing a little game here. So I get y'all. I understand. All right. So anyway, so there you go. That's our
code turd
of the week. Oh man, dude, really? I did do that, did I? Did I have a button for that? Code turd of the week. There we go. All right. So let's go on and get to the giveaways. We're running behind.
Spin this wheel. I'm gonna keep this hat on today because my buddy Chris Lightsy's on there, and I think he's the biggest turd out of everybody. So I'm gonna keep this on for him. He said earlier, he said, "Hey man, I want that turd hat. Just look in the mirror, bro. You already got you just are one. You're one big turd." So, all right. So yeah. So we have. It looks like we have 4 people spinning the wheel tonight.
All right. So let's go on. Who do we got first?
All right. For the first one is Mr. Chris Lightsy, and he donated $20. So thank you, sir, so much. Yeah. Let's see what you got. Oh, you know what? He's got an LED light. I should have said because there's the bonus one for myself that we didn't pick a color. Hold on. So we're gonna switch this up. Pick a color for round 1 again, Paul. We're gonna respin for him. He's not gonna get the light. We're gonna respin for him. I didn't do this. Pick a color.
Let's go with blue.
Blue. So how this works is you guys, the 4 people are gonna spin. We're gonna spin for you guys for the giveaways that Paul gives away on his end, and then if you get blue, you go on to the next round, which you're in the drawing for the hat, the gloves, and the micro USB. So from DeWalt, they're about $20. You know, you can get them at the Home Depot. All right, let's spin it again. Sorry, Chris.
All right, no worries. Okay, let's go.
Sprinkle grin. Don't get blue. Don't get blue. Don't get blue. Oh, God.
Stickers.
I don't want to give him anything more than I have. I already bought him a dang Christmas present. All right, we got the sticker. I did, and he's a good guy.
See,
all right, next is
to surprise him.
Yeah, that's surprise. Next is Aaron Lohr.
All right, Aaron.
Big Aaron in the house.
Now, did you send Aaron the box?
Yeah, so I didn't send it to him. So what I did was I ended up wrapping it as a present for him.
All right, so I haven't forgot about you, Aaron. All right.
No. It's here at my house.
All right, good deal. All right, that's it.
All right. Oh, stickers too.
Stickers.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Still got a bunch of those.
Aaron gets stickers.
Got a bunch of those.
All right, Seth. Seth in the house.
All
We're
right,
going to spin for Mr. Seth. Oh,
LED.
Dude, look how close he was to the free sub.
He was close.
The subby, bro.
So close.
All right, he's get the LED light, and then we have Mr. Schwartzy in the house.
Schwartzy.
Donation of $5. Really appreciate you.
Let's do it.
He's gonna get blue. Oh, he's got stickers too.
Dude, I got a bunch of stickers to go out.
Yeah, you do. You got 3 sets of stickers. All right, so now since it's just blue, we're gonna start at the top, and the first one to hit blue will get it. So everybody kind of keeps getting that chance. So keep spinning. The first one is Chris.
All right, for Chris, here we go. We're looking for blue, right?
Chris, looking for blue.
And again, this is for a hat and gloves and $1 million, right?
Yeah, I wish.
Oh no, it wasn't $1 million. I'm sorry. Okay, not hat, gloves, and ooh, that's nice.
Yeah, isn't that pretty sweet, man?
You Kevlar.
Yeah.
Dude, that's what I need. You know how many times look, I had to go replace these things today. These things, of course, this is a C cable. I need a C. There.
Yeah, that's right. You were telling me about that.
But anyway,
listen, guys, this thing can take a bullet. If you know anything about Kevlar, this thing can take a bullet. So this thing's indestructible. So.
All right, you ready? We're gonna roll.
Yep, roll it.
Blue. First to get blue.
Oh, don't be Chris. Oh, yep. Okay, spin again.
Listen to him. Listen to him. Don't be Chris. All right. Who's next? Who's next?
Aaron.
All right, let's roll it.
Nope.
Oh, no. All right. Next. Who's next?
Seth.
All right, Seth. Let's see if you get it. Oh, all right. Man. Who's next?
Schwartzy.
That blue was a tricky one tonight. All right. Oh,
is that blue?
No, it's red. Screwdriver.
Oh, you missed it.
I mean, that is right on the line.
Oh, that's right on there.
All right. Well, is that it? They don't get to go another round, and that's it. We're saving it for the next week, huh?
All right, we're saving it for the next week then.
All right. Well, let's come back to us. All right. Well, that's it. Hopefully you got a little insight into what our thoughts about home inspectors. Again, I think they bring great value. Don't expect more than you should from them. They are generalists. They will provide a list. As an electrician, think of it as income. It's Sports. He said, that's just not right. That's just not right. Right on the line. It's, hey, So again, they bring a certain level of expertise to the table. And remember something. The moment that you say something about the home inspector about missing something electrical, ask yourself how well you know plumbing, mechanical, the HVAC system, structural, to the point that you're willing to put that into a report and be held liable for it. Think about that for a second. We know electrical. That's what we specialize in. We shouldn't expect them to know as much as we know. Let's just use them as a second set of eyes, and they can generate business for us. They can generate relationships that you can make with that home inspector. In fact, tell you what, if you make a relationship with a home inspector and you're an electrician and you have the skills, hopefully they'll be receptive to you actually teaching them something. And you know what? You might just learn something yourself that you didn't know. So again, hopefully you enjoyed the show tonight. Jay, do we have anything you want to give in a parting words? Other than that, then we
will see you guys next week.
All right. So everybody, take care, and we will see you next week for another episode of Electrify. Till then, stay safe. God bless. You've been listening to Electrify with your hosts, Paul Abernathy and Jay, the Basement King Grunberg.